Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vicini. We are presented by The Athletic. Today on the show, it's Adam Spinella in the building. We're going to dive deep into the 2023 NBA draft class by doing the first ever Adam Spinella 2023 NBA mock draft on the Game Theory Podcast feed. Spins, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, Sam. All's good here, man. I was preparing a few days ago to be so exhausted from the last week of NBA news and all that has gone on and transpired in the league. But we're a day away from college basketball. We get to talk mock draft and actually dive into the prospects and make this a fun episode. So I'm rejuvenated and ready to go. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I feel a bit better about just having
Sam, I think your audio disconnected there again. Keep hitting that mute button. Still off, Sam. There he is.
We're back.
There he is.
The stupid mute button on the Yeti, man. It's killing me. I feel a little bit better about basketball. The last half of last week was a little bit rough across the NBA, and it made me feel a little bit icky about covering the league. Another thing that made me feel a bit icky, the Chicken Man of Philadelphia. I just want to shout out to the Chicken Man of Philadelphia. There's a man in Philadelphia who ate a rotisserie chicken, an entire rotisserie chicken, every day for 40 days. Every day for 40 days, this man ate a full rotisserie chicken. And he had a 500-person party on, as he described it, it looks like the pier next to the Walmart or something like that. Just random spot in Philly. Shout out to the Chicken Man of Philadelphia. That's where we're at here. Is there a food that you could eat 40 days consecutively that is the full size of a rotisserie chicken?
Oh, probably the answer to that is no. I can I can have steak like nobody's business, but I think 40 days would wear me down of it a little bit. Pizza is probably the best thing I could say. I'd probably have close to a full pizza every day for 40 days, but that's true dedication to your craft, Sam.
As Luke Brahm says in the comments, it was not a party. They were very clear to note that it was not a party for the 40th consecutive day of a rotisserie chicken, but it ended up being a 500-person get-together, let's call it.
Sure.
Yeah, can you imagine eating a rotisserie chicken-sized steak for 40 days in a row? I mean, that would literally potentially kill you, I feel like.
I don't think I can handle it. As a guy who's 5'11", 165, that's going to do me in for a long period of time, having that much meat every single day. Holy moly.
Nah, can't do it. Okay. So the way that the mock draft pods work on the Game Theory podcast, as Adam is well aware, we go back and forth. We dive deep into prospects 1 through 30. One of us gets the first pick. The next one gets the second pick. The other one gets the third pick, etc. The way that we flip for this is we flip the Chihuahua coaster here. The Chihuahua is heads. The backside is tails. This is an honor system thing here where Adam's going to have to understand that I'm not going to screw him when I flip the Chihuahua coaster. The way that this works, no teams at this point, but it's essentially back and forth with us drafting prospects 1 through 30. And this is going to look dumb in a month probably, but it's a fun process and it's a good way to dive into prospects. This is the eve of college basketball season as well. So it's a really good opportunity for us to dive into a lot of different prospects that we'll be talking about throughout the college basketball season as well. So please come join us. Have a good time. If you ask some questions in the comments, we will absolutely get to them at some point.
Yep.
But we're going to flip the Chihuahua coaster and get moving here.
All right.
It is, I need you to call it.
Oh, you need me to call it.
Yep.
Tails never fail, so I'm going to go tails.
Yeah. Tails it is.
Oh,
Do you want
the best
first
day
or
of my
second
life.
overall?
I would love the first overall pick, please, Sam.
Okay. So you get the first overall pick. Here we go. Adam Spinella, you're up. Number 1 overall pick.
I have been stressing over the coin flip and not the decision, or I guess the coaster flip in this case. This is a very easy one for me. Number 1 overall pick, taking Victor Wembanyama from France, formerly of Moron Mountain and the Monstars, because this guy is an alien. He's an absolute freak. 7'4" in shoes, about an 8-foot wingspan, incredibly skilled offensive player who is starting to push the boundaries and explore the space of isolation scoring in high volume. He tore up the G League Ignite when coming over to 2 games earlier in October and was clearly just an ultra confident type of offensive player.
Yeah.
8-foot wingspan, high level defensive ceiling, can protect the rim and block a million shots. He alters the way that everybody attacking the basket kind of plays their offensive game. You can tell that he's in everybody's head. He's able to switch onto the perimeter. He had this one play about a week ago, Sam, where he started with 1 foot in the charge circle and on a kick out from the post to the opposite wing, sprinted, turned, and stuffed a catch and shoot 3-point attempt. His ground coverage is insane. Like, it's what this guy can do defensively is nothing like we've ever seen before from a teenager. So you combine that with the fact that he's so comfortable and confident shooting the ball from 3, taking shimmy dream fadeaways from both baseline corner over his shoulder. He can, pick up his dribble at the free throw line and get to the basket, slam everything home, be a great pick and roll threat and lob threat, runs the floor in transition, rebound, and he does a little bit of everything on the offensive end. I'm so excited to see what he looks like 2 or 3 years from now. This is a home run pick for me. Like, I am ready to retire as a general manager, go 1 for 1. We got Victor Wembanyama. I'm happy as hell.
Yeah, Vic is the clear option at number 1 overall. I don't really see any argument against it as long as the health checks come back clear. He will go number 1 overall. It's just like even the innovation. Like he took like a 1-footed like pull up 3-pointer earlier this weekend, and it was just like, what are we doing here? How is this possible? This person is 7'4" with an incredibly high release point that is impossible to block. It's just he's unlike anything that we've seen in a real way. There's just no other way to describe him. And he will be the number 1 overall pick as long as the health checks come back clear. And I don't know that we need to belabor it. Okay. Let's go to the number 2 overall pick. I'm going to take Scoot Henderson at number 2 overall. I think Scoot is I don't know if he's the best guard prospect I've seen in a long time, but he is certainly among them. His pull-up shooting has really improved, it seems like, to the point where it's just a genuine threat, especially from the pull-up range. Whereas John Morant is going to take like a variety of floaters from the pull-up range. He's going to get to his spots in the mid-range and just pull up as a jump shooter at a pretty high level. I think this was a skill that kind of went underrated of his throughout the offseason. He's actually a really good pull-up shooter from the mid-range, and it gives you every inclination that he's going to be able to extend that out to 3 moving forward, even if the 3-point numbers were not elite coming into this season. He had 25 points in their opener as well. I think he had 25 and 7 assists, if I remember correctly. Just looked every bit the part of a star, looked every bit the part of someone that should be in the NBA right now that's currently playing in the G League. Really high-level passer. I think the passing has also gone a little bit underrated throughout the course of this offseason. He's like a genuinely high-level playmaker that can hit, I think, every pass in the book. He hits the cross-corner kickouts. He hits the pocket passes. He hits lobs. Everything that you're looking for in terms of a difficult high-read pass, he can do that. Look, he's 6'2". He probably isn't going to be the highest level impact defender, but at the end of the day, I do see Scoot Henderson as a 25-point, 7 assists plus per game guy in the NBA that on top of all of the skill level I just talked about, is just an incredibly high level athlete that I believe in to be able to consistently get separation at the point of attack, pressure defenders at a high level, get 2 feet in the paint, and cause all sorts of difficult scramble rotations for opposing teams. Spins, Scoot Henderson at number 2. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, really good pick. I think the obvious choice here once Victor is off the board. The thing that stood out to me most about Scoot Henderson over the last maybe month or so, and watching some clips on him and seeing him play at the start of this Ignite season, is how competitive he is. That was the one thing when you watch the matchup with Victor Wembanyama when they played in Vegas. Scoot was going at him. Like, he is not going to shy from any type of matchup. He wants the spotlight. He wants the moment. He wants the ball in his hands to be trusted to be that number one creator and option. But he's responsible with that kind of creating duty. He doesn't just go out there and try to get his. We saw him really make a point to come out swinging and scoring in that first game against Victor. And then in the fourth quarter, just made every right read, every right pass to involve other guys. I think that balance of scoring and playmaking at such a young age is hard to teach, and it shows just how special of a prospect he is with the ball in his hands. You mentioned the size at about 6'2", maybe 6'3". Defensively, I guess there are a couple challenges that come with playing that way, but because he is so athletic and does have the ability to add strength to his frame, I think that he's going to fare a little bit better maybe than some people would think at the point of attack defensively. So really, really good pick on your end, getting Scoot number 2.
Okay, Adam, I give you the floor again. You are up at number 3.
I am. And I am going to go with somebody here that has made quite an ascent up my board over the last month or so. I was a little lower on him initially, but I've started to come around. It's Thompson for Overtime Elite, firmly checking in at the number 3 spot on my board. 6'7", 6'8", freak athlete. And when we say freak, we don't just mean in terms of his vertical leaping ability. Yes, he has that, but it's the change of gears from stop to start, the ability to go from 0 to 60, essentially become a walking paint touch whenever he wants it. That makes him so tantalizing as an offensive type of prospect. Really creative finisher near the basket. Obviously, he has all of the dunks and the ability to finish above the rim, but he's got this contortionist feel for how he reacts to rim protectors that come near him at the hoop. He's really, really good and crafty finishing below the basket. He's got nice touch there. And a sensational passer. That's one thing that's always stood out to me about Thompson is the functionality of his passing on the move, his high IQ and willingness to create plays for others out of the pick and roll. He has a lot to develop in his game offensively. The jump shot has been a question mark that, Sam, you and I have talked about a lot here on the podcast. I think the pull-up jumper is something that has to be able to improve, particularly if he's going to be a high-usage offensive piece playing out of the pick and roll. If that's going to happen, he's got to be able to make sure that defenders can't just go underneath everything and dare him to shoot time and time again. So there are areas he's got to work on, but with all of the natural tools, the high level feel he has, the intangible boxes that he checks off by being such a hard worker and a really good kid, and the versatility to guard multiple positions on the defensive end while being a plus athlete and a smart defender. I think that if all we're waiting for here is a jump shot to come around, this is a guy who's going to make an impact regardless, but how high a level of an impact is going to defend on that jumper. I'm willing to take a bet on him 3rd overall in this class.
I am too, because I think that his ability to pressure the basket and to make high level passing reads is going to carry him through, regardless of the way that this looks right now in terms of the jumper. I just firmly believe that he's going to be able to get separation. He's going to be able to get paint touches in transition in the half court whenever he wants, just point blank. Like you said, he's a very creative finisher. I think that he is just someone that's going to be effective in that regard. And then even if the jumper takes 3 years to figure itself out, if it takes 5 years to figure itself out, he's still going to be effective because he's still going to be able to break down defenders. He's still going to be an exceptionally high level defender. I believe this. This would also be my number 3 overall pick for sure. Thompson is a good selection. Number 4, we're up now.
Don't do it to me, Sam. Don't do it to me.
I am going to take Cam Whitmore at number 4, which I assume is who you wanted as well, right?
Yes,
So
yes,
the reason I'm
yes.
taking Cam Whitmore is he's 6'6", he's 225 pounds. He has this incredible blend, I think, of grace and balance, in addition to just explosiveness and power and physicality that is going to mesh really, really well. He has that combination that's going to allow him to be a very real mismatch threat in the NBA. On top of it, he is a developing shooter, but someone I believe that will knock down shots. This year is going to be a little bit interesting because he's entering the season with a thumb injury. And obviously that can fester at times for guys that are not like the most elite of the elite shooters. And I wouldn't say Cam Whitmore is that to this point. So how we evaluate Cam Whitmore's jumper this year, I think is going to be interesting. He's a conscientious defender who can play both the 3 and the 4 at the college level, will be basically a pure 3 in the NBA, really high level slasher, just knows how to play, has a very high IQ as well. I love how intelligent he is on the court. He makes the right cuts. He makes the right reads defensively. He's an impact player on both ends of the court and uses his athleticism and length exceptionally well. Adam, as we've talked about before, you played Cam Whitmore last year in the league that you coach in over in Virginia, DMV.
Baltimore,
what do we want to describe the area as?
Yep.
Baltimore.
Yep.
Explain Cam Whitmore for people that are just tuning in for the first time and haven't gotten to see him play yet.
Yeah, he is a graceful Mack truck that is going to run over anything in his path trying to get to the rim. And he's always had this special physical ability to score, to put his head down, to get to the bucket, and both finish in transition in the half court. But over the last year or so, he's added so much of the perimeter skill that goes with it. He's a very, very underrated catch and shoot guy. And a lot of the reason that his shot is going to be successful, in my view, is because his first step and his power as a driver is going to force guys to play maybe a half step off of him more than they would anybody else. Because if you have to crowd Cam Whitmore, forget about it. He's too strong. He's not going to get bumped off of his spots. He's a competent enough handler. So if your defender plays back off of him, he's going to have a little bit more room to get his jump shot off. It's kind of square and kind of slow right now, but it works because of the rest of his game. I want to see the mid-range continue to develop, but he's added a lot of offensive polish over the last year and is really, really confident being more of a face-up guy. Not going to be somebody that bullies everybody in the post. I think that that's an area he can add to his game. And Villanova, if Kyle Neptune continues with the Jay Wright trends, will be posting up their guards every now and again. So I'd like to see that from Whitmore because of his strength, but going to be an impactful player in transition, a bully driver and a mismatch wing attacker, and somebody who on the defensive end of the floor is just always going to be solid. Love the high ceiling because, man, did he kill us last year. He kicked my ass twice, man.
Okay, Spins, you're up at number 5. That is Cam Whitmore at number 4.
Yeah, tough one here for me because
this is where
so many different directions.
Honestly, like number 3, I think is where things really get difficult. Or not number 3, number 4 after pick 3 is where you can go in a few different directions. I considered like 4 guys at number 4. But there is still a number of guys that I think you can get into the mix here at number 5.
Yeah, and I am, again, going to go with one of those recent risers and somebody that I've just fallen in love with over the last month or so. Might be a bit of a surprise. I'm going Brandon Miller out of Alabama, 5th overall. Brandon Miller.
I kind of expected you to do this. Explain why.
Yeah. Just there's something about the intel that you hear about a guy who receives rave reviews from his teammates as being different. That makes you want to buy into him being able to continue that to the next level. 6'8", maybe 6'9" kind of a wing forward type of player. Great scorer, thrives in the mid-range, and is a tough bucket. He's not a elite athlete that's going to create separation in one-on-one situations and continually play at the rim. He is a crafty, understands angles and spacing, how to get his own shot off against any type of defense, bag full of counters, one-on-one type of scorer. I believe that a guy who's that confident and accurate in the 15 to 18 range is going to be able to transition that to pull-ups from 3 very consistently. There's nothing about his jump shot form that really scares me away. The 2 areas that gave me pause initially on Brandon Miller were the amount of rim pressure, because he's not an elite athlete, and what is his natural position to guard on the defensive end. But if you are a devastatingly effective isolation scorer and number 1 top option for your team, you can figure the rest of that stuff out. And there's a little bit of passing and playmaking in there. There's enough ball handling that I've seen that I've fallen in love with. And I think that he's going to be able to get to the rim because of how crafty and smart that he is. I'm ready to go all in on a guy like this. Like, he is just risen up my board so high. I like this archetype of a player, a bigger wing who can handle and create. I don't know what not to like about Brandon Miller at this point.
Yeah. Would not surprise me if this ends up being the case on draft night, that Brandon Miller ends up in the top 5. This is a little bit higher than where I had him, but I think this is a reasonable pick. Someone that, one of the 4 guys that I considered at 4, along with Cam Whitmore. Brandon Miller is an interesting one because, you know, I've talked about this before. I wasn't an enormous fan of what I saw at the high school level, but the more that I've watched him, the more that I get it. He's firing up threes. Like in their first exhibition game against Southern Illinois, he took 5 threes in that game, and he missed all of them, but just the sheer confidence. And we know Nate Oates will give him the green light to be able to shoot, which is a really, really good sign, I think. That he's already confident enough to just fire up those threes at such a level. He still ended up with 14 points on 13 shots, even though he missed threes at some point. Those threes are going to fall, and he's going to put up even bigger numbers. Alabama's first game is against Longwood on Monday, and then they get a Liberty team on Friday that does tend to be pretty difficult to deal with defensively, that I think could actually tell us a little bit about where Brandon Miller is as a player. They're going to crowd him in that mid-range area, particularly, and make him uncomfortable. How can he adjust to dealing with that? Yeah, really, really interesting player. Really interesting player, and a guy that, given his size, his body control, his balance, his ability to create shots, this is what the NBA is looking for. This would not surprise me at all to see him go as high as 4. Wouldn't surprise me at all to see him go as late as like 15 at the end of the day, depending on how he shoots this year. But I think that it seems to be going toward the higher end of that right now, based on all of the intel that you get. Okay. I am up at number 6. I'm going to go Nick Smith at number 6. And Arkansas has had a weird preseason, it seems like, where they're still definitely integrating a lot of different pieces, but the constant in it all for scouts that have seen them in practice is that Nick Smith looks every bit as advertised in terms of being a 6'5" combo shot creator that can handle some lead guard because of his ability to handle his craft as a ball handler. Not the most explosive guy in the world, but is someone that can gain separation, particularly to get to his mid-range jumper and also to get to his step back 3-point jumper. I will be interested to see how much pressure he consistently puts on the rim this year. That is a area that I'm looking for from him. That could be a difficult challenge for him because Arkansas, as currently constructed, Trevon Brazile is shooting some threes here and there as like a space 5. They're starting Jalen Graham right now as a like 4-man sort of. Jalen Graham is more of like a mid-range guy that has this like weird mix of floaters and push shots and stuff like that. And then they're starting Anthony Black and Jordan Walsh, neither of whom are shooters, next to Nick Smith. So how much pressure can he put on the rim? How much can Arkansas work to space the floor around Nick Smith? I think is going to be a really, really interesting question to track this year. What does their offense look like? Does it sometimes look like a bit of a clogged toilet? Unfortunately, that could be the case. We will see what this looks like, but from a skill perspective, he has all the craft, all the technical ball handling ability, all of the potential to shoot it, I think, at a really high level, and passing ability. He's not like a pass first guy necessarily, but when he is looking to make high level passing reads, he can do that at a pretty high level. So Nick Smith at number 6 for me. I believe in him. I'm a big fire of his talent. It's just, I will be interested to see what it looks like this year in an Arkansas situation that may not be totally catered to his specific gifts.
Yeah, it's Arkansas is a fascinating situation right now, Sam, for that reason and that reason only. I mean, when I think of Nick Smith, I think of a lot of the issues that other great combo guard scorers at Kentucky have kind of faced over the last several years, where because of the role that they're asked to play, they don't get to show the full litany of skills that they have to be able to use at the NBA level. That's something that we've seen time and time again from guys like Devin Booker and Jamal Murray, who basically never ran a pick and roll and were just used as off-ball floor spacers because they had so many athletic, non-shooting guards and players on the floor at Kentucky. This may end up being a similar type of circumstance for Nick Smith at Arkansas. Now, the difficulty in that is you sometimes can't help yourself but go based on the film and the numbers that develop over the next 6 or 7 months. But I think we've got to be able to take this with a grain of salt and identify if he's such a talented kid and he's that one shooter that may end up making a little bit of a sacrifice just so that all of the pieces that the Razorbacks have can gel, that shouldn't detract from his draft stock in June. So I certainly understand why he would be in the conversation at number 4, which I'm assuming is some guy that you gave some thought to at that point. Yeah. Creative scorer, really, really fun player. I get it, but it could be a strange year for him at Arkansas.
It could be, yeah. Okay, you're up at number 7, Adam.
Yeah, I like this one here. I got one guy that I considered taking at 5 that fell to me here. It's Dereck Whitehead at Duke. I am a big Dereck Whitehead fan. I just think that he's strong, polished scorer, 6'6" with good length and athleticism, can play the 2 or the 3. Really, really confident type of player, and share the floor with some great college prospects who are now going to be making waves on their own this season. I think he's due to explode when he gets to be the man a little bit. Full out assaults on the rim when he puts his head down and drives, has the ability to hit tough step backs in the mid range, and is not trigger shy at all with his pull up, and has developed what I think is a pretty reliable catch and shoot game from 3. So there is some 3-level upside and ability to him while having maybe a little bit more size than another guy that I considered here at this pick. Just if there's one trend that I'm leaning towards right now, it's going a little bit higher on guys who have good athleticism and maybe a little bit longer or bigger than somebody else that I like at their position. If you look at the way the Orlando Magic, the Toronto Raptors, so many of these other teams are trending in the NBA right now, size across all these positions is huge. So, being 6'6" and being able to play the 2-guard spot is really intriguing to me. I know he's going to miss part of the season here. He's been dealing with some injury throughout the fall. We don't know exactly what he's going to look like when he comes back. Duke has a ton of young guys to be able to integrate, but I'm just betting on his talent and upside long-term. I think that he is the type of player whose game is going to pop really well in the NBA as opposed to necessarily in college.
Yeah, Dereck Whitehead is dealing with a foot injury currently. John Shire, after their exhibition game this weekend, was stated as saying, or quoted as saying, that he is seemingly a couple of weeks away still, which gives me some pause. Like, foot injuries do tend to linger throughout the course of the year. They tend to fuck up a guy's shooting ability. They tend to screw up a guy's explosion in terms of leaping. And for people who have watched Dereck Whitehead, he's someone that, like, he wants to get downhill in a straight line and put one on your head. That is his game. And I will be interested to see what it looks like. From a talent perspective, he's got a lot of it, like, no question. The shooting off the catch, the ability to attack closeouts in a straight line and finish. I'm not like 100% sure I see him as like a 2-guard in the NBA. I almost see him a little bit more as a 3, if only because I worry about the shiftiness as being like a secondary ball handler, like a true, you're going to throw him ball on the second side of the court and he's going to do anything other than drive in a straight line. Right. We'll see. His handle is something that improved throughout the course of his high school career, but I want to see more of the technical ability from Dereck Whitehead. I don't know that we've totally seen that at like the highest level yet from him.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I will say on him, Sam, is I kind of love his confidence. Like he carries himself like he
Totally.
expects to be a 20, 25 point per game scorer. He expects to be a top 3 pick. Like there's something kind of endearing to me about somebody like that. And similar to Nick Smith, like this may not be the ideal freshman year because he's coming in, he's already starting injured. He's a player who, relies on that physical first step of being able to play in straight lines. If he doesn't have all of that burst from day one, he's going to start slow. But again, I'm willing to bet on the long-term kind of upside and fit in the NBA game for somebody like him.
Yeah. For what it's worth, Dereck Whitehead would have been 8th for me. I have the next guy in that group that I considered at number 4. Keyonte George is the guy. This is a player that I just have heard nothing but positive things about out of Baylor. It started this summer when he went up with them to Canada and had an absolutely terrific, what was that? The Global Jam event is what it was called, right?
Yeah.
They played the U23 Canadian team. He dropped 35 points in that game. He's been terrific all summer. He looks like he's going to step in and play the Jared Butler role next to why am I blanking on the terrific guards at Baylor?
They got a million. LJ Cryer, they've got Langston Love, they got a million guys there.
Yeah, they have a ton of guys there that I'm really, really excited about. Adam Flagler is who I'm thinking of. Flagler is going to be an absolutely tremendous player at Baylor this year. High-level shooter, had a killer game against UNC in the tournament that they were eliminated in. But you look at the Flagler, Keyonte George combination, Cryer's going to come in. Like you said, Langston Love's going to come in. This is the best backcourt in the country, and Keyonte George is kind of the key of it to me because of his ability to consistently get his own shot. He's someone that's going to be able to run ball screens. He's going to be able to make high-level scoring drives because he's a terrific finisher at the rim. He has a really nice in-between game. He can shoot from distance. I think he has a real chance to be the most impactful freshman in college basketball this season. CJ Moore and I have a thing coming tomorrow, so Monday, where we're ranking the top 50 newcomers across college basketball. Keyonte George is number 2 for us. Everything that we've heard out of Baylor is that Keyonte George is going to be an absolute monster this season, an incredible impact player. And he's got the craft that you look for from players entering the college game, his ability to handle the ball, his ability to shoot. I'm a believer in Keyonte George at a really high level.
Yeah, I buy it. Through the first 8 picks that we've had here, I think in some order, I had all of those guys in my top 8. So no complaints about any of the decisions that you've made there. And I think with guys like Keyonte, Nick Smith, and Dereck Whitehead, it's not necessarily, I don't want to say splitting hairs in some regard, but it's almost like pick your flavor that you really prefer out of a lot of these guys. And for me, it's a little bit more size and bursty athleticism for Whitehead that I was attracted to. But Keyonte can fill it up in a hurry, man. And if he's able to defend at a high enough level this year, that 8's going to look too low for him when we look back at this several months from now.
Yeah, totally. Okay, you're up at number 9. This is where I think it really starts to open up quite a bit.
It does. And we've talked about this before. I have a belief that in the later parts of the lottery, you just got to take somebody who you believe is going to be an impactful player in your rotation or in your starting lineup eventually. And there's one guy still on the board that I have really high hopes for to be that super dependable piece. It's Dereck Lively at Duke. It's traditionally a little bit higher than you might see a non-perimeter skilled big go in the draft. But 7 foot, 7'1", really, really long, great defender and shot blocker on the interior. He has also shown through AAU film and playing in high school at Westtown that he can switch a little bit on the perimeter. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be a switch by design. This is exactly what we want you to do every single time because A, he's so good around the rim, you want him there. But B, in late clock situations, when you get forced to switch, he's not going to be chopped liver in that situation. And to me, that's really attractive as a fail-safe.
Yeah, he'll be a drop big that if he gets caught on an island against a guard, will be able to handle himself out there at the very least.
Yep. And offensively, he's much more of a catch and finish, screen and roll type of big. That's his role. That's what he's going to do. But he shows intrigue in this very smooth catch and shoot jumper, whether it's out of the pick and pop, spacing the floor to corners. There's something valuable about that as well. So for me, it's the reliability of what he's going to be as your rim running, pick and roll, drop coverage big, while also believing that, yeah, this is definitely a guy that might be able to add a little bit more intrigue to a team standpoint because he can switch some ball screens, because he can stretch the floor a little bit and space the three-point line. I'm willing to invest in a guy like that in the later part of the lottery.
Okay, so here's what I would ask, and this can be a philosophical question in general here. Dereck Lively is someone where the shot, I agree with you, it looks like it has a lot of upside, but he has never really made shots at a level to where a team should let him shoot from three, right? So how do you go about evaluating his potential to shoot it, given that the results have never actually matched the mechanics?
Yeah, it's a great question. And like, I think another guy who kind of fits that bill, and maybe an unfair comparison and me just trying to dig myself out of the hole here, is Victor Wembanyama. Like, he's never had a season where he's shot over 30% from three, but we do believe in the mechanics. We do know that the work that he's put in and the confidence that he shoots it with leads us all to believe, man, he's definitely going to be able to do it at the next level. Very different type of situation, because Victor is taking some wildly difficult ones and knocking them down, and he takes a lot more of them. But I think with Lively, some of the same type of attributes are going to apply, where the confidence that he kind of shoots it with when he's open, I think his mechanics are pretty smooth. And big guys tend to, not always, but they tend to get their shots in two primary locations: in the corners when they space the floor out to that area, and at the top of the key when they're picking and popping in an NBA offense. And if you can just work on the consistency from two areas, that's a lot easier to really nail down the logistics of improving your shot than it is for a wing player who has to be able to hit them at 6 or 7 different spots on the floor and on the move and all these different areas. So it's much easier to me to be able to get the mechanics working, to understand that if defenses are going to play off, if he's guarded by opposing fives, he'll probably have a little bit more space to shoot. I'm willing to buy into all of those factors adding up to him being at least competent at that level.
Okay, so this is now, I'm up at number 10, and this is where I'm going to take a little bit of a flyer. I'm going to go G.G. Jackson at number 10. And I like G.G. Jackson a lot. I like his upside a lot. I think that this year is going to be, I don't want to say a throwaway year for G.G. Jackson at all, because it's going to be incredibly important for his development that he's getting a chance to go and play at South Carolina, play up a year, get a chance to really adjust to the physicality that is going to be shown to him as he moves up levels. I just wonder if the performance will necessarily, especially early in the season, be as strong as you expect from a number 10 overall pick. G.G. Jackson is 6'9", has really long arms, a very impactful defender, I think, at a highest level, in my opinion. Someone that can switch out onto the perimeter as well as be a weak side rim protector. This is a guy that probably more of a 4 that can slide down to the 5, as opposed to more of a 4 that can slide to the 3. Really, really mismatched, nightmare-y kind of guy, where you're hoping that the positional size that he has can take him through, can handle the ball out in transition, needs to tighten it up a little bit in the half court, can make high-level passing reads out in transition, hasn't really shown that same level yet in the half court. He's a very young player. He is still 17 years old, and he's going to be playing college basketball next year. But you look at his balance, his athleticism, his grace, his body control. He's strong for someone that is this age, with this kind of frame. You do want to buy into it. He also has potential to shoot it at a pretty real level. It's all potential with G.G. Jackson at this point, as opposed to production. But I am, at this point of this class, willing to buy into potential a little bit more than buying into maybe a couple of the other guys on the board. And Adam might be gone. We might have lost Adam here on the show. He might be frozen. He just did not like my take on GG Jackson. While we're waiting for Adam, I will answer a few questions here. Jesse Bender says you call Lively not a perimeter skilled big. I'd say his second best NBA skill is his 3-point upside. That being said, he's not a lottery pick. I'll be honest with you. I had Dereck Lively a little bit lower than where Adam had him. Adam's Wi-Fi has crapped out for what it's worth. I would have had him more near the end of the lottery as opposed to taking him at number 9. A few people have asked, is Asor Thompson that much inferior to his brother? Look, I don't even know that it's inferior necessarily. We're going to get to Asor Thompson here in a minute, I'm sure. And we'll kind of talk through what our concerns are with Asor, but I'm pretty intrigued by the athleticism while also having some concerns about what his ultimate role is in the NBA. Here we might have Adam back now. We have the circle of death here on the screen. Adam, are you back?
I believe I'm still alive, and GG Jackson is off the board. If I cut out at the wrong time there, I think I missed a little bit of the explanation, but it does seem like GG Jackson went 10th overall.
GG Jackson went 10th overall. Give me a take on GG Jackson.
I'm so curious to see what the half-court offense is going to look like for him. South Carolina seems to be, I don't want to say committed to playing him at more of a wing or a forward type of spot, but that does seem to be what they're going to be trying to accomplish this year in a way that's going to develop him for the NBA game. And I just caution a lot of people to understand he's going to have a lot of pressure thrust on his shoulders to create, maybe in a way that he's either not ready for or hasn't been asked to do at lower levels, because he plays a lot more of a athletic-y, big man interior presence type of position at some lower levels. I get the swing on an upside. I don't think it's a bad pick by any means here, Sam. I just think this year might get a little bit clunky for him. And we all as evaluators have to remind ourselves that this is a teenage kid, a year early in college, being thrust into a situation that might not be for his benefit.
Okay, you're up at number 11 now, Adam.
I'm up at 11, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with Asor Thompson.
Yeah, this was my next
pick
as
Thompson
well.
For overtime elite.
Yeah. So let's explain.
Yeah, I think we're at the. Go ahead.
Yeah, while you were gone, some people asked, why is Asor so much lower than Amen Thompson? So let's kind of dive into Asor's game here.
Yeah, I think it's kind of Amen light in a lot of regards. Very similar athletes, but Amen has a little bit more burst. Similar passers, but Amen is a little bit better at making those late reads as he drives to the basket. Similar defenders, but I think Amen's a little bit better on ball, where Asor is a little bit more polished as a team defender. And when I look at the shooting ability and kind of upside, Amen has more confidence there. That's definitely a clear area where when he's taking those pull-ups, like, the form's still not great, but he believes that they're going to go in more than Asor does. He looks a little bit skittish trying to take a lot of those catch and shoot shots or even those pull-ups. So I think that's where the gap between the two kind of comes in, is that just right now there's a little bit more projectability with Amen's game than there is with Asor's, of believing all those smaller points are going to translate towards primary creation. That said, he's an effective defender, a hell of an athlete, a really good slasher and smart basketball player. There are ways to make him incredibly effective on a basketball court. I'm just not fully there that it's going to be as a number 1 or number 2 option with the ball in his hands. So that's one of the reasons why I've been.
That's where the role concern comes in, because if he is not a number 1 or number 2, the shooting concern that both of the Thompson twins have is amplified, given how important shooting is from role players across the NBA. Asor is not as twitchy and not as able to create separation out of nothing as Amen is. That's why Amen can be more of a primary creator, which is why Amen is at number 3, and we have Asor right now at number 11 on the board here. But as you move down tiers in terms of value across the NBA, the shooting weakness becomes amplified. And Asor, thus far, I don't know what happened this weekend necessarily, but as of last Thursday, he had not yet made a 3 in overtimes games. And that's a concern. They're both really hard workers, and you want to buy into the shooting, but improving. But the concern becomes amplified when he's not a primary guy. And I don't think he quite has the twitchiness and craft as a ball handler to be able to play as a primary guy, especially if the jumper, especially off of pull-ups particularly, is not as much of a threat as what we would like it to be. Okay. I think that answers the Asor Thompson question. I think Albert Singleton put it well here. Like, this goes to show how narrow the margins are in the NBA. The minor differences between the twins is worth 8 spots. I think that's 100% right. The minor differences between the two is really the difference on the margin between being a primary guy potentially and having like substantial questions about how someone fits into a role in the NBA. I love Asor Thompson and I love Amen Thompson. I've talked to them on the podcast before, as you guys have seen. Also, by the way, for people, I will have the Drew Timmy tape watch along being released tonight. It will also be attached to the podcast at the end of this episode if you're listening on the podcast feed. So please wait for that. But I'm excited to share that with you guys, just as I was excited to talk to Asor and Amen Thompson, both of whom were just elite character guys across the board, and just super emotionally intelligent and mature. And those are the kind of guys you want to buy into improving. But I just have a couple of questions still about the margins, essentially, as to whether or not Asor can be a secondary guy or a primary guy. Okay, I'm up at number 12. I am going to go. I'm going to go Cason Wallace out of Kentucky. Okay. And this is purely a defense, high level intensity. I believe him as just a super competitive dude pick. I think Cason Wallace probably profiles a little bit more as a role player as opposed to like a superstar in the NBA. He is a super high level defender, a super high level playmaker, and a solid creator on the ball who can create his own shot, but it's more about the defense for me. I think he has a chance to be one of the best on-ball defenders in college basketball this season. He's also 6'3.5", 6'4". He can switch down 1 to 2, can deal with threes because of his strength and aggressiveness. I'm a big-time believer in his defensive upside, and also I'm a believer in the shooting upside. I think at some point he's going to be a high-level shooter, even if it's not quite there yet. Although I think that he will knock down enough shots to consistently play and be a real option for Kentucky this year. What I like about Cason is the ability to play both on and off ball. And I think that's going to be important for Kentucky this year. As Kentucky fans know, Severe Wheeler is someone that can go through patches where you just kind of shouldn't have him on the court because of the turnovers, because of the lack of shooting. Cason's ability to slide over and play the point at times is going to allow them to have real flexibility in terms of the lineups that they construct this year. So I'm a big fan of Cason Wallace. I love just the aggressiveness, the toughness, everything he's going to bring from an intangible level. I'm a believer at the end of the day. He is just that dude that is going to set a tone for a team. And I have him at number 12 here.
Yeah, he's a pit bull of a defender, Sam. Reminds me a lot of like an Avery Bradley type of combo guard who like his specialty is going to be defense, but he does enough different things on the offensive end just to be able to figure out how to be useful. He shoots it, decent passer on the move, like can create a little bit, not a ton, but a good enough passer. I like the pick. I get it. He's a culture changer. Like to me, he is the guard version of a Dereck Lively. Very solid, dependable, good fit in any type of team or system. It's just going to make those around him better. I think that the late part of the lottery is the right time to take a lot of those guys.
Yeah, no, I agree. Okay, you are up, Adam, at number 13.
Sam, I'm going to do it.
What are you about
I'm going
to
to go
do?
Baba Miller. We're going Baba Miller from Florida.
This is aggressive, Adam, even for you.
Oh, I am all in on the Baba Miller experience. There's something to me about a guy who just flashes every bit of skill and is so young and unrefined in some ways. That's just interesting. And in today's climate of the NBA, you win with unique toolsy players who have length. And that's Baba Miller. He's really unique on the offensive end of the floor. And he's super, super long. 6'10", maybe 6'11" now. Seems to be getting a little bit taller. Incredibly fluid athlete. Great in transition with the ball in his hands. Runs the wings, can run in that rim runner spot in the middle as well. Good athletic finisher above the basket despite having a little bit thinner of a frame. He's shown the ability to shoot it too, Sam. And that's catch and shoot. That's a little bit off the bounce. And it's even off of the move and off screens. I'm just intrigued by the combination of size, fluidity, and natural kind of propensity to shoot the basketball on the offensive end of the floor. Still don't know what the role is going to be primarily for him in the half court, whether it's playing more off ball and attacking closeouts, or whether he can be some sort of a unique mismatch, bizarro pick and roll handler. But this is my version of your sweet boy, Alexei Pokusevski. Like this is the guy who has all of the tools, the natural fluidity, the upside that you want to buy into. And you know it's going to take a couple years, but you fall in love with the upside. And I've had that so far with Baba Miller. I hope he's freed by the NCAA and they start to rethink some of their issues that we've gone over on the podcast in the past. But that's not going to deter me from taking somebody whose upside I believe can be really, really special.
Well, above all, with Baba Miller, he fits the paradigm that teams are beginning to draft into in terms of size and skill intersection. That's why I don't think this is like a crazy selection here. Look, it's a fucking preseason mock draft. Like, let's go nuts, right? But like, I do worry about, you know what, like maybe being suspended like could help him a little bit. He's not going to get the early time. It could end up hindering him because Leonard Hamilton, God, not Leonard Miller. Leonard Hamilton could just decide to roll with who he's got because Florida State's pretty deep this year, as they often are. And Leonard Hamilton could just decide like, you know what, he didn't get a chance to like, you know, get the game time that he needed against younger teams. So it's going to be a struggle to play him in the ACC. Or it could allow Baba a little bit more time to adjust, a little bit more practice time, and could get him with his feet underneath him by the time he plays for Leonard Hamilton at Florida State. We'll see how it looks. I think it could look really, really good. It could look like a bit more of a question for him, but this is like the highest upside, like could be a top 10 pick, could end up not in this draft. Could end up in the 2024 NBA draft, I think for sure. But yeah, I think it's not an impossible pick that this could end up being the thing that happens with Baba Miller at all. And
if he's gonna be in this draft, I think that you have to take him somewhere in like the top 20 because he's got such high upside. Like if he's not a top 20 pick, he probably is going to get counseled to go back to school for a second year. I don't think this is that unreasonable, Sam.
No, I don't
he's
either.
Exactly like you said. He's the intersection of all of those things that NBA teams are looking for these days. He's so young, and just the natural shooting ability to go with it is huge. It's not just size and skill. It's size, skill, and shooting. And that opens up Pandora's box for me.
Okay, I'm going with another size, skill, and shooting guy here. I'm taking Tyrese Proctor at number 14, and it's size, skill, and potential to shoot it for the guard position as much as anything. I think he's a legit lead guard at 6'5". You look at his pick and roll playmaking ability. He is a super high level passer. He can hit cross corner kickouts. He can hit lobs at a really high level. He's really smart, doesn't turn the ball over a lot. You just look at the way these Australian big guards have translated over the course of the last couple of years. Josh Giddey, Dyson Daniels, Tyrese Proctor has long been seen as the next guy. He chose to attend Duke this year. And I think that Duke is much better for it. It's going to allow them to slide Jeremy Roach off the ball into a more natural situation. And I'll be honest, scouts that have been down there, they can't stop speaking highly enough about Tyrese Proctor as a player. He's a high-level defender at the point of attack as well. Yeah, like I've even heard a couple of people say to me, like, don't be surprised if the gap between Dereck Whitehead and Tyrese Proctor closes by the end of the year and they end up being taken right in the same area as one another. I've taken Tyrese Proctor at 14 here, and I'm very happy with it. And I will also note that scouts that have been down there have said that his jumper looks better at the very least. That was the concern coming in. How does he score? Can he consistently put pressure on the defense outside of ball screens? Can he consistently knock down shots from distance and force teams to come out on him as a shooter? I've heard that it looks better. I don't know that it's like some elite weapon yet, but I've heard it looks better. And because of that, Tyrese Proctor, number 14 overall for me.
Yeah, great pick. I was heavily debating at 13. I ended up going with my boy Baba and taking the upside swing. But like you, only heard great things. I think the jumper looks great in what I saw this summer. If that continues and that's the version of Proctor we get, it's a really well-rounded guard and a winning piece.
Yep. Okay, you're up at number 15. And as usual in these, we're going to buzz through the last 16 picks. Yeah. At least to an extent. Like, we're still going to talk about them all, but like, move a little bit quicker.
Yep. I'm still going with the trending upward guys here. So 15, I'm going Jalen Hood-Schifino at Indiana. Yeah, trending upward.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I like big guards. I like big guards who are physical and are able to play at different paces. He's very acrobatic around the rim. He can take space and play bursty and getting there, but he's also great at using angles and hostage dribbles and all these other crafty things that young teenage point guards who are really, really good seem to have in their bag by the time they get to college. The jump shot is the one worry. I think that it's going to come around to at least a competent level. That's based more so in his confidence and kind of shooting them and things that I've heard than it is from, just evidence over the last year or so. But this is another flyer for me. Like, I think this is going to be a draft where we have a ton of freshmen who end up proving that they belong in this lottery conversation. And if there's one guy we haven't mentioned yet who I would put my money on being there, it's going to be Hood-Schifino in Indiana.
So I'll be honest. What I've heard about Hood-Schifino is might be a first round pick this year. Might go one and done. Might be a first round pick. I've gotten kind of similar vibes to Trevor Keels at Duke last year. A guy that's a bit of a surprise first round pick. Questionable as a shooter, but does everything else really, really well, right? And you can buy him as a defender. You can buy him as a playmaker on the ball. He can play off the ball. You can do a lot of different stuff with him. I haven't really gotten near lottery vibes. Have you gotten that yet?
I've gotten closer to it maybe than you have. I've gotten mid first, which, is kind of what I've heard from some people. Big guards who know how to play with their size are appealing to me because they have this natural feel to their game. And I'm at the point where I've seen enough questionable shooters come in the draft over the last couple of years that end up becoming reliable shooters from deep. That's not as big of a deterrent to me anymore, is the lack of shooting range. If you're confident enough to shoot it, then I think that's more important than having pristine form from day one.
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't hate that. Okay. I'm up at number 16 now. I'm between two guys here. Oh God. I'm going to go, mm, I'm going to go Anthony Black out of Arkansas. And Anthony Black has a lot of similar vibes to Jalen Hood-Schifino as far as does everything at a really, really high level. Exceptional pick and roll playmaker, passer, high level distributor off the ball as well. Just makes the right passing reads. He makes everyone's job easier. On top of that, really, really high level defender who can defend 1 through 3 because he's 6'7". Again, the paradigm here that I think you'll note from Adam and I, positional size and skill level and feel. Those are the things that NBA teams are looking for right now. Anthony Black can play a credible point guard at 6'7" because of his passing ability, his playmaking ability. So I've gone Anthony Black here. I have concerns about the jumper. I've heard that it does not look great, to be honest, from people who have been down there. But if he can do anything as a shooter this year, even, I think it'll exceed expectations and could end up pushing him toward the lottery. And I've got him here at 16.
Yeah, no, I get it. I was really high on Anthony Black coming into the season. I think I've soured a little bit more, not really intel wise, just more so I haven't figured out how he scores on an NBA court. So I'm kind of waiting. The jury is out for me. I need him to prove how he scores on a court as opposed to me giving him the benefit of the doubt preseason here. But certainly a good flyer with size, basketball IQ, and playmaking ability.
Okay.
Right, me
you
again
are
here.
Up at number 17, Adam.
All right. I am going to go with Tyrese Walker at Houston. Good size, strong body and frame. I think the NBA is trending a little bit more towards having guys that are really big play at that 4 spot. We saw a couple of years ago, it was really this spread in space, all 3-point shooting, guys who are small forwards that eventually age into becoming power forwards by the time their career winds down. And with success that the Cleveland Cavaliers are having, with Milwaukee Bucks playing 2 bigger guys in their front court a lot of the time together, I think we're just going to start to see this trend coming back of really needing somebody who can provide that offensive spacing and skill while also having the physicality to guard bigger and be physical on the interior. And Tyrese Walker checks those boxes on the defensive end. I've got my worries about the jump shot, Sam. It's slow. It's a little bit clunky. But he's shown me a little bit of bully ball ability to take other guys off the drive. And with his size and strength, he's going to be able to do that against even strong athletes. And I do like him as more of a facilitator at the elbows and the top of the key. I think that there's something to him being able to function within a set and create things for other people that you can scheme ways to make him useful on the offensive end of the floor. But this is more of a defensive pick to me at this point in the middle part of the first round.
Yeah. Okay. You've gone Tyrese Walker from Houston. I am going to go at number 18, Terquavion Smith. I'm taking someone who returned to college basketball. I know that we have not done that yet, and I want to do that because it is very rare for a draft to get to the point where we are this deep into it and someone has not gone off the board who has returned to college basketball. Terquavion Smith is the best pull-up 3-point jump shot creator in this class. He averaged, I think, 19 points a game on 40% 3-point shooting on 10 3-pointers per game at NC State as a freshman last season in the ACC. That is a ridiculous number for that level, for being as young as he is, because he's a young freshman in that league. It goes to show how impactful I think he can be, particularly as like a 6th man shot creator in the NBA, which at this point in the draft, like that's kind of what I'm looking for. Needs to improve as a finisher, but I think he has real potential as a finisher because of his twitchiness. Like he has this ability to explode. He's gotten a lot of recognition for like going up for like left-handed dunks, despite being a right-handed shooter. I think he has enough bounce and hang time to be able to figure out how to adjust around the basket. I'm I'm a believer. And the guys that they've brought in, they have to replace 17 points a game from Darion Sebron last year. They have to replace real production. I think there's a good chance Terquavion Smith averages like 25 points a game this year or something like absolutely crazy for NC State. They're going to play up tempo under Kevin Keats. They're going to have to give him the ball because, God, who else are you going to give it to? And I think he is going to be a monster shot creator for NC State this year. So I've gone Terquavion Smith at 18 out of NC State.
Yep, I get it. And again, we're talking about sixth man guards here. Someone who can come in off the bench and be a microwave scorer. The issue for Terquavion last year on the offensive end was his finishing. He just wasn't great at converting near the hoop, but he's got the athletic burst and he's got this little bit of hang time finishing that you mentioned that you can buy into the skill. So as a specialty player at this point and somebody who can just pop off at any moment, definitely understand it.
Okay, you're up at number 19.
Yeah. I'm going to go high upside swing here. I'm going to go with Khalil Ware at Oregon.
Yep, that was my next pick as well.
I think this is about the time when, if I'm not in love with any role players being predictably on the court and being a solid rotation guy, I'd rather go with the upside swing. I think it's John Hollinger who has this theory that there's about 20 to 23 guys in any given draft class that end up sticking in the NBA long term. So as we get closer to that mark, we've got to make that decision. Do we make the upside swing or do we go with a reliable guy? I'm going upside here with Khalil Ware because the upside is massive. He's a 7-foot big man who can protect the rim, really fluid athletically, and has shown confidence to create his own on the offensive step out to three. How consistently he shows those, what his motor looks like, how good of shape he's going to be in cardiovascularly, all remains to be seen. But just in terms of the tools and the confidence that he brings to the table, I think he's worthy of being a first-round pick, and I'm going to take the swing here.
Yeah, all of that's right. It's just a production question versus talent question with him, right? The production has never been quite as high level as the talent would anticipate with Khalil Ware. And he is all the upside in the world. Like his fluidity athletically at 7 foot is ridiculous. Exactly. Like he should be able to really turn it on this year to where he should be their guy. But they also have Nafali Dante at the center position this year. I would imagine that Ware ends up playing like decent amount of the 4, but like they have Quincy Guerrier, whose best position is the 4. They're Oregon's pretty deep. Like Oregon is a top 25 team this year. So how much time does Ware get? How much string does he get to continue to showcase that, you know, he can really play? He's someone that needs to get reps as much as anything. And is Oregon going to be willing to work through the growing pains? I'll be interested to see what it looks like early on in Pac-12 play, because I think that's going to be the pivot point. Or maybe he's just great and is ready to go from the jump. But if he's not, early in Pac-12 play, I think is going to be the pivot point where we find out just how great he is as a player. Okay. I am up at number 20. Number 20. I am going to go Nikola Djurisic, which is a guy that I think you wanted with your next pick. So I'm just going to ruin you here. Yep. Okay, Nikola Djurisic is like 6'8". I'm kind of calling him a hybrid between Bojan and Bogdanovic almost. He's not quite the shooter that Bojan is, but he's a much better ball handler. He's not quite the ball handler that Bogdan is, where he can run kind of a credible point, especially for second units, but he can be a real secondary ball handler. You and I are both believers in Djurisic being able to shoot, if I remember correctly. The numbers, again, haven't really showcased it at any point, but he is someone that the jumper looks great. He takes a ton of tough shots, which I think brings the number down. Is he gets more open shots by playing with better players, guys that aren't 20 and 21 years old. I think it's actually really going to help the numbers for him as a primary playmaker. He was absolutely terrific in their game against OTE, Amin and Sir Thompson. I thought he was the second best player on the court behind Amin Thompson. So Djurisic, I have many questions defensively. I'm not sure what that's going to look like, but offensively, he has positional size, playmaking, shooting ability that NBA teams look for. So I've gone with Djurisic at number 20.
Solid pick there. Thank you for stealing my guy and leaving me in a tough situation here, because I'm looking at the board at 21 And I'm not finding a ton of guys that I'm in love with right here. I think this is where the drop-off is starting to come for me. I'm just going to go with another high upside swing here at a position that I think is always really, really hard to predict, whether it's going to be an ultimate boom or an ultimate bust. And that's these athletic, non-shooting kind of wing forward types. So I'm going to do it here. I'm going to bite the bullet and go Dylan Mitchell from Texas.
That was my next pick as well, for what it's worth.
Yeah. I've got questions, Sam. I've got questions on the offensive end of the floor about what he does well in the half court and how he's going to develop this year.
Okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
Texas is going to get bludgeoned on the glass regardless of what they do, right? Like they just don't have any bigs really other than Dylan Disu, and Disu is like not a great rebounder for the Big 12 level at least. Is there a chance that they just play Dylan Mitchell at the 5 and just let it rock?
I think there has to be a chance. Like, is Chris Beard going to be that inventive and unorthodox in a lot of those ways? We'll see. Like, I think offensively that would fit well for Mitchell to be like this pogo stick, screen and roll finisher, put him in the dunker spot and just have him catch lobs a ton of the time. Like, to me, that's the best way to utilize him. And look, we can all sit here and rattle off ways that non-shooters and slashers can find their way to be effective in a half-court offense. 45 cuts, backdooring out of the corner, go attack the offensive glass. But you can only have one of those guys on the court at a time, maybe, Sam. It's just the margin for error here is really, really, really thin. And I haven't seen enough on the offensive end where I feel comfortable. Freak athlete. Has the potential unbelievable athlete, has the potential to be a great defender when he uses that, but it's the offense for me. This is a pure upside flyer for me at this point.
Yeah, and it's one that I don't mind. I will be interested to see if they play him at the 5 occasionally. Like, do you roll out a lineup of like 2 of their 3 guards, Timmy Allen and Sir Jabari Rice, and then like play Dylan Mitchell at the 5 over Christian Bishop? Christian Bishop's 6'7" undersized guard himself. And like, there are reports kind of that Dylan Mitchell might be like 6'8", 6'9", as opposed to 6'7", like we thought he was coming in. If he's that, it obviously changes the calculus a little bit more. You can play him with Dylan Disu as well. Dylan Disu can shoot a little bit, so you can play like a combo 4-5 role there. I like Dylan Mitchell as like a guy who can grab rebounds, lead the break, attack, do things like that. I just don't know what the skill level is outside of that, especially in the half court. He seems like someone that you're going to have to hide early in his career at the very least.
And the defense better be great if he's going to be able, if you're going to have to do that. He better be a great defender.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go at number, what am I up to? I am up to number, I believe 22. I'm going to go Chris Murray at 22 out of Iowa. And Chris Murray to me is just someone that I buy into as someone that's going to be able to play in the NBA pretty quickly. 6'8", good defender, real athleticism, just as athletic as his brother. And then can really shoot it, shot 39% from 3 last year. Doesn't have the ball skills that Keegan has. He's not going to be that kind of guy, but I think he is going to be someone that's going to be able to average 14, 15 points a game while playing high level defense at 6'8", knocking down shots. And those guys, they tend to go somewhere in the 20 to 40 range.
Yep. I want to thank you again for taking the next guy on my board. Like it's
simple,
fail safe right here, Sam. You just keep doing it to me. So thank you. Oh, 23. Who am I going to go with here? This is still another tough one. How about this? Let's go Marcus Sasser from Houston.
Okay.
Marcus Sasser.
Yeah, I don't mind this at all.
Yeah. Disruptive point of attack defender. He's undersized. He's a smaller point guard, but he proved at the G League Combine last year, even when coming back from injury, that this is a guy who belongs on a professional basketball court in some regard. Uber confident on the offensive side of the floor. Pretty much everything is from 18 feet and out. Good pull-up scorer, deep range from 3, can hit movement shots and play off ball. If you're a smaller point guard, I like guys who can play off ball and spot up in the corners because, as we've seen, the NBA is trending more towards size and skill, which means primary options and creators are going to be 6'7" or above. If you're not going to be this elite scoring guard at 6'1", 6'2", then you better be able to shoot 40% from three. And I think Sasser has the ability to do that while being that pit bull, Javon Carter-esque disruptive point of attack defender. Like, insane at disrupting ball screens, avoids contact at all times. He's a pest. And as a specialty, kind of off the bench type of guy with a winning pedigree, I think you can do a lot worse. So Marcus Sasser for me.
I don't mind that pick. I will go at number 24 now. I love Sasser. Great defender, pesty, great shooter, great scorer. Perfect player here at number 20. What did you take him? 23? Yeah. So 24, I'm up. I'm going Ryan Rupert for the New Zealand Breakers. 6'5" to 6'6", exceptional length. We're talking like a 7'2" wingspan, and he makes plays with it right now on the court for the Breakers. He played a little bit better in the preseason than he has thus far for the Breakers in the regular season over here in Australia. But he's been able to carve out like a fairly reasonable rotation role where he started quite a few games for them. He's only shooting 35% from the field or something. And it's largely because the shot hasn't totally come around yet. But you look at his ability to make the right play as a passer. I think he does that at a pretty high level. He's just an impact player defensively at like a pretty real level over here. I think that a team has a pretty real shot somewhere in the top 40. Maybe he goes in the first round. Maybe he doesn't. He's someone that really should be stashed, I think, more so than be a guy who comes over to the NBA immediately. But he's shown enough of a disruptive level given his frame to where I think that an NBA team will probably take him somewhere in the top 45 and just say, let's figure this out. Right. And see if he can make an impact in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. And tough news, I believe, that came out earlier today or yesterday about suffering a broken wrist. It's going to be out for a period of time there. So we'll see how that disrupts his season. But he's shown enough of intrigue with his length, defensive ability that I think even if he misses this time and is out for a substantial period, he's still intriguing enough to be that top 45 guy.
Yeah, I think that's right. And we'll see. Like the wrist break could stop him from being a first round pick, to be honest. Just because, again, he hasn't shown quite enough offensively where you buy into it. No. But the way that he's been able to disrupt defensively, the length, the athleticism, the positional size, positional length, I think there's a real chance that someone takes a flyer. It just depends on what his pre-draft process is going to be able to look like because of the injury.
Yep. No, I think that's very fair. Okay. 25 now.
Yep.
25. I'm going to go with an upperclassman guy, somebody that I did not come into this thinking I would take in the first round, but as I'm thinking about the teams that typically draft from 25 to 30, it's those who are maybe hoping to get one guy that they can plug in and play a few minutes on a championship caliber team. It's rare for a rookie to be somebody who steps into that role permanently, but if you can squeeze some minutes out of somebody earlier on in their career, it's a huge win for those teams. And that's why I'm taking Jaime Jaquez from UCLA here, the later part of the first. Very solid, dependable, smart help defender. I don't know what his main position is going to be on ball on the defensive side of the NBA level, but he's competitive enough and smart enough as a helper to be able to mitigate any of the concerns that he might have at the point of attack. Good catch and shoot prospect, not great, but good. Smart, crafty scorer, Sam. I love watching a guy like him play on a bench unit for an NBA team when you need just a little bit of a scoring punch and somebody who's not going to make many mistakes. I think Jaquez stands out as a guy that just is a fun basketball player. Let's take him.
I love him. I love his defense. I love his motor. I love his aggressiveness, his energy. He's a leader. He's just across the board like a great dude that you want to buy into. I am up here at number 26. And at number 26, I'm going to go Deron Holmes out of Dayton. And folks should go watch the tape breakdown I did with Duran earlier this week, or last week, I guess. Great dude, really high level energy, really sharp kid, emotionally intelligent human being. More than that, though, he just kind of ticks a lot of boxes that you look for in a modern big. Can guard away from the basket, really high level contester and shot blocker on jump shots. Very high level rim protector. Very good rebounder. Could work on being able to establish his position a little bit better, but has improved his strength level over the course of the last year to the point where I think he's probably going to be a little bit better in that regard this year. Really high level passer that I think he didn't get enough credit for last year. Ultimately, he just is 6'10". Like, that's really the only flaw in him that I see. I even buy that he's going to shoot it at some point. He's just 6'10", and that makes it a little bit tricky. But I'm a believer in Duran Holmes. I think he averages something like 17 points, 10 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2 blocks this year. And if that happens, he will be damn near an All-American for a Dayton team that is going to be very, very good.
I get it. Go watch the film session that Sam did, folks. It's awesome. A really, really good job. And Duran is a fun guy. Seems like a really fun guy to be around. We want him in my locker room.
High energy. Yeah.
Okay, this is 27 for me. I'm going to go with a little bit more of that positional flyer, that just size and a little bit of skill, but defensive toughness. Arthur Kaluma from Creighton here at the later part of the first round. You know, I want to see the shooting and the jumper continue to improve. There were signs in the spring and going into the summer that it was moving in a positive direction. I'm willing to bet on that and hope that it comes around this season. And if it does, a really long, toolsy kind of 4-man at the NBA level. I think defense is going to be his calling card. Good mismatch type of scorer when he drives it to the basket, but a little bit more about like craft and pump fakes and up and unders than he is just bursty playing above the rim. If the jump shot can be sustainable to a solid level as a catch and shoot guy, I think he has a future in the NBA.
Okay. At number 28, I'm up to. I'm going to go Jordan Hawkins from Connecticut. And I have some concerns about Jordan Hawkins as a ball handler and as a passer and as someone who can, like, even in the half court, can he dribble twice in a row without, like, you know, having to reset the offense or turn it over, right? But he is a 40% three-point shooter on high volume this year, I think, who can be a high-level defender. And those guys are harder to find than you think the more that you do this, especially guys that can be like genuine 40% shooters off of movement. And I believe Jordan Hawkins has a chance to do that at some point in his NBA career. I think he might shoot 7 threes a game this year for Connecticut. That wouldn't surprise me at all. He's someone that is a really, really high level knockdown shooter off of movement. So I'm going Jordan Hawkins at number 28.
Damn you, Vicini.
I do what I can to ruin your life.
Yeah, every time. 6'5" and long arm, can defend 1 through 3 as a result of that, I think, because he can be physical and kind of guard up. I like Jordan Hawkins, man. That's a good find on your end. Last pick for me, right? 29, last pick. So I got to take somebody I really like and somebody that I want to talk about here and send it home. So it's going to be the Adam Spinella sleeper special, Judah Mintz at Syracuse. I think another one of those potential one-and-done guys that sneaks into the draft. There's always one of them, right? Somebody who's ranked outside the top 25 or 30 as an incoming freshman that just puts up great numbers and is able to prove to scouts that he belongs in the NBA as an investable prospect from day one. Judah Mintz has all of the offensive tools to be a really good scorer. He's underrated in terms of athleticism, burst near the basket, very, very crafty and confident finisher. Love the mid-range pull-up. Think he can stretch that out to 3 and even play off-ball a little bit. Decent enough size at maybe 6'3", almost 6'4". He's going to have the opportunity this year at Syracuse to put up numbers. I do believe in that. How efficient he is and how a playmaker he is for others is going to go a long way in determining whether he is more of a one-and-done type of prospect and sneaking into that top 30 or top 45 as opposed to being a multi-year college guy.
Okay. So The guy that I'm going to go with to end it is, again, someone that I just want to talk about at the end of the day. I have him more in the 40 range, but it's just someone that, and I think this is an interesting team worth talking about. I'm going to go Trey Alexander out of Creighton. I consistently keep getting told that Trey Alexander looks like the guy there. Looks like the guy to watch. Like everyone was excited about Kaluma, and Kaluma is, has kind of, I guess, been, I don't want to say like he hasn't been on the court quite as much, because I think there might be like just a very, very minor like thing going on with his maybe knee or something. Don't aggregate this. I'm not informed enough, but the scouts there have talked more about Trey Alexander than they have Arthur Kaluma, is the point of this. They've talked more about Trey Alexander even than Ryan Kalkbrenner. And by the way, I think Ryan Kalkbrenner has like a fairly real chance to go in the first round, the more that I think about it. And Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to be maybe the best rim protector in the country this year. There's a lot of Walker Kessler there if he can shoot threes. I am a big Ryan Kalkbrenner fan, but I think Trey Alexander is the guy. He's an elite level point of attack defender. He's a great slasher, great ball handler, attacks the rim. If he shoots it, it really comes down to the jumper. If he shoots it at a high level and averages like 15 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists per game, like I think he's genuinely capable of, while leading Creighton as like a top 7 team in the country, which I think they are. Yeah. Trey Alexander is going to have a good shot to go in the first round at the end of the day. I am a believer. I'm high on him. I don't know that I would say first round right now for Trey Alexander, but I wanted to talk about him, so I'm going to go 30th Trey Alexander here.
There it is. I think Creighton's just that damn good, Sam, that we can finally talk about them having this many prospects and guys that can really go off and change not just the course of their college season, but really allow them to play deep into March. I've heard similar things. I know you and I talk about Trey a lot. Like, I love his game. I thought he looked like their most competent guard in the NCAA tournament last year, and a guy that was on my preseason radar of watch out for this kid. I'm excited to see if that comes to fruition, because he's a really smooth player.
Yeah, I agree. Is there anyone else you wanted to bring up very briefly?
I think Adem Bona at UCLA is
Yes.
one guy that I've heard some good things about. Similarly to when you talked about Deron Holmes, like I think there's just a little bit of a size thing with Bona at like 6'9", 6'10", playing more of that 5 position that I'm not sure how to buy into. We didn't talk about any of the other G League Ignite guys, Sidy Cissoko or Leonard Miller. I guess I just have concerns about how they play off ball next to a star that will either get revealed or really be troublesome throughout the season. And I guess last for me would be Caleb Love at North Carolina. Like, if he explodes and is able to be consistently adding another level to his game, he's just too good of a shooter to leave out of the late first round conversation.
Yeah, I agree. Amari Bailey is another guy that I think we should bring up. I've heard good things about him as a slasher at UCLA. I think he's going to play quite a bit. Julian Strother, good scorer at Gonzaga on the wing. I really like Terrence Arsenault. I don't know if it's going to be 2023 or 24 for him. Grady Dick had a really good first exhibition for Kansas. Let's see here. Who else? All of the bigs: Drew Timme, Oscar Tshiebwe, Armando Bacot, Hunter Dickinson, Trace Jackson Davis. There are quite a number of them. Who else?
Mike
Matthew
Miles
Cleveland,
at TCU
maybe.
is going to,
Yeah, Mike Miles. I dig the Mike Miles call out. Colby Jones at Xavier. I'm a big Colby Jones fan. I just don't totally know what that is going to look like there, kind of. Maybe.
If Harrison Ingram can shoot it, I mean, he's a guy that I'd be intrigued by, but that's a big what if.
Sure. Tyrese Hunter, I've heard, looks really good shooting the basketball right now. And if he's a shooter, that changes things a little bit. I mean, we mentioned Jordan Walsh earlier as a guy that's a freshman at Arkansas that's super athletic and an energy giver. Yeah, I mean, once you get down into this level, this is something I talked about in the last episode, man. Like, I have some questions about the depth right now of this
Yeah.
class. This really might be. Typically, I can get excited about like 40 guys, whereas Hollinger is like excited about 20 of them. When I talk to John, this year I might be more in John's boat. The way it's shaping up.
Yeah, I know we talked about that on the last pod. Like, we'll see how the depth of this freshman class is, because I think that's going to go a long way in determining the depth of the overall draft class. If there are a ton of freshmen that are ready to come in and be, closer to, if not first round guys right away, then I think this ends up being a fairly deep class. But all of the talent in college basketball are smaller point guards or true big men. And that's just not a congruent fit to where the NBA game is going right now, which leaves the door wide open for anybody from like this 25 to 60 range to really sneak in there just as a toolsy type of flyer specialty player who fits more of the NBA style of size, skill, and shooting nowadays. That, we'll find out more over the next few months who ends up being that guy.
Like you're saying like 25 to 60 could like really rise up. I would go way off the board even. Like, I've heard really good things, for instance, about like Jalen Tyson at Texas Tech. Like, if Jalen Tyson averages like 16 points a game or something like that as Texas Tech's primary scorer and shoots threes in the way that people think and can defend at a high level within that scheme, like there are so many this early season portion of what we do is going to be so dependent upon just like getting eyes on as many people as possible and seeing what's out there. This is all early this season about trying to identify interesting players. It's going to be very, very difficult, I think, to get eyes on everyone, because I think that the world has to be so much more open this year, even than it has been previously. You always have to be very open and willing to consider players every single year. But this year particularly, I think you really have to go hunting to find guys like a Jalen Williams at Santa Clara to, potentially be a real lottery option, or to be a real top 20 option even in this class.
Yeah, I think that's very astute. Like, if we're going really deep, like I hear good things about Zach Hicks at Temple, taking a good stride as a sophomore, being a really good catch and shoot 3-point threat. If he can put the ball on the floor and defend, that's a win. Like, I like Jaden Gardner at Virginia because I thought he did the best job against Paolo Banchero one-on-one last year. If he can be that defensive piece, that's going to have value. We saw that with Herb Jones being able to step in right away in the NBA. Like, look how well Paolo Banchero is doing, and he had real trouble with Gardner at Virginia last year. So, like, there are specialty guys that we've seen in some area that I like, that I'm intrigued by, and there are going to be so many more that we get our eyes open to over the next 4 or 5 months. It's going to be a super fun draft cycle.
Totally agree. Couldn't be more excited. Spins, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on with you.
Yeah, just released a first 12-game video breakdown on Victor Wembanyama over on our YouTube channel, Adam Spinella. The college basketball season is starting now, so going to be having a lot more quick hitters about some games and prospects that we see and come across on that end. But follow me on Twitter at @theboxandone_, or our Substack page, theboxandone.substack.com. Sam, I'd like to thank you for having me on for my first ever Game Theory Pod mock draft, and give you a special shout for taking all of my mid to late first round picks one spot before I could snag them.
Yeah, you got the first pick, man. You could have taken everyone before I wanted them. You had the leverage here, buddy.
This is true.
No, this was super fun. We'll do this again probably in like a month or so, just to kind of see where the lay of the land has settled after a month of college basketball play. I'm trying to think who and what else you need to know. I will have written forms of all of the tape watch-alongs I've done. I did 4 of them in the preseason. Drew Timme will go up on Monday. There will be one more that goes up on Wednesday, I believe. I'm trying to think what else I've got coming. I have a top 50 newcomers piece on Monday for college basketball to talk about within the tip-off of college basketball here. I believe that's all that I will have this week written wise. Podcast, there will be one with Schindler coming up at some point this week, and then another one. I don't know what I'll talk about on that other one necessarily yet. Could be college, could be NBA, but a lot of this week is going to be spent with me watching college basketball to try and get eyes on guys. Speaking of college basketball, though, I will now take you to my conversation with Drew Timme. If you're watching on YouTube, this is the end of the show. But if you're listening on the podcast feed, you will now be able to hear my conversation with Drew Timme. Thanks.